Today I'm talking about two of my passions, Roman architecture and Roman coins, here combined on some fantastic coins provided by my friend Aaron Berk at Harlan J Coins here in Chicago. I have some examples for you here, 6 in fact, including this one in my hand, one of the most famous and valuable of all Roman coins. We'll work up to that and start with some other famous monuments. So, now, most Roman coins have on the obverse, the front, the portrait of the reigning emperor. This varied in quality quite a bit. Often from the port of Rome would be very artistic, look like a statue in miniature. Provincial mints, much less so. But the reverses of coins, the backs, varied enormously. You have slogans, mottos, gods, and sometimes buildings, as in this case. This is a temple, an octastyle, 8-column temple in Rome, on the back of a coin of Trajan. As you see, it's very stylized. No temple had columns so closely spaced to each other. There was much more detail here. But it conveys the majesty and impression of strength, grandeur, expense, whatever else. It conveys what the issuing authority, in this case the emperor, wanted to epitomize of the building. And that we'll see as a motif for all of these coins. Now, sometimes a portrait of a building is more symbolic than actual. In this case, we have the Temple of Mercury in Rome. It's never been found. It's a very ancient temple from the 5th century BC on the Aventine Hill, and was venerated, but unfortunately is lost. And in this portrait here, we see a very curious building with the columns in the shape of herms, that is, statues of Mercury, and a pediment shaped almost like 2 laurel boughs touching, with the god's attributes, the caduceus, several sacred animals, there on the pediment. Now, what's interesting about this coin, besides the very strange building, which may or may not have actually looked like this, is the occasion of its issuing. In 173, Marcus Aurelius was fighting his famous Marcomannic Wars in what's now Bohemia, other parts of Central Europe. And at one point, a legion was stranded in a high and dry plateau. This is in 173, with no access to water. The Quadi, the Germanic tribe they were fighting, surrounded them there and prevented them from getting to water. So they were dying of thirst. So suddenly, though, a cloudburst emerged from out of nowhere, summoned, it was said, by an Egyptian priest who had called Mercury, or Hermes, god of the air, to aid the legions. And so, of course, the troops, refreshed by the rain, charged the barbarians, saved the day, Rome wins. And this coin was issued, we believe, to commemorate that battle, the Battle of the Rain, or the Battle of the Thunder. Here we have an even more famous building. Now, the 7 wonders of the world we've all heard of are mostly gone. Only the pyramids survive today. But in its day, the Pharos, the Lighthouse of Alexandria, was equally famous. It was the skyscraper of antiquity, we think as much as 400 feet high. And here we see the Pharos, the great lighthouse, with a goddess beside it, on an Egyptian bronze coin. There's not much detail here. We know it was a 3-stepped building with a square base, a octagonal middle section, and sort of a temple-shaped lighthouse beacon, a great burning fire, mirrored, we think, by panels of bronze. Here it's just a kind of a squat, outline with a bit of smoke trailing off from the top. But we see here again this epitome, this iconic representation of a very famous building from antiquity. Moving back to Rome, you may recall this guy. This is the Emperor Nero, who is, of course, everyone's least favorite tyrant. And it's a worn portrait, but we see here Nero's rather pudgy cheeks and tyrannical countenance coming through. What's wonderful about this coin, however, is the reverse. This coin is worn, so the outline is just all you can see. But it reflects one of Rome's great mega projects. Now, Rome is located, as many of you know, about 20 miles down the Tiber from the Tyrrhenian Sea. Small boats can get up the Tiber, come up the current. They're towed often in the ancient world by gangs of slaves. But big ships, like the famous grain barges, cannot. They're forced to harbor or to go to port on the seacoast. Unfortunately, the Tiber has no natural harbor at its mouth. It just comes out in a great silty mess, and ships get stranded there if they're large. So for many years, the Romans had to put their grain barges in port at Puteoli, on the Bay of Naples, and haul the grain with great effort and great expense up from Puteoli to Rome. Eventually, though, the Emperor Claudius, who reigned from 41 to 54, decided that it was time to build a proper harbor near Rome itself. And so, about 2 miles upstream from Ostia, he excavated a great new basin, which he called Portus, just means port, not very creative, but it works. And here at Portus, he built shipping facilities, warehouses, porticos, and roads going back to Rome, as all roads did. This sestertius of Nero, issued, we think, after that great project at Portus was completed, shows the new harbor. It's very warm, but we can see a circle of porticos and warehouses around 6 ships, which are doing things like unloading grain on the sides, coming into port, being happy and safe inside this new enclosure. Unfortunately, the port was less safe than was anticipated. Only a few years after it was opened, a great storm destroyed 200 ships in the harbor, which sank and caused the emperor no end of embarrassment. And so, 60 years later, this guy, best known, Optimus Princeps, the best of all Roman emperors, Trajan, who reigned from 98 to 117, decided to fix things, being the best emperor that he was. And so Trajan decided that a new inner harbor, totally sheltered from the prevailing southwestern winds, was needed. And to that end, he built an extension of Portus. Now, this was a great hexagonal harbor basin. We think about 400 meters to a side. And it was totally enclosed. It was actually set inside from Claudius's basin. So no wind or storm could touch it. And this became, from the point that Trajan constructed it, Rome's new default port. Ostia itself fell into abeyance, and so did Puteoli down to the south. Everyone came to this new great harbor basin, which for 300 years remained the place to go. Whether you were a grain barge, bringing in olive oil, bringing in metalwork from Syria, whatever else, you came to Portus. And this coin reverse is so detailed, we actually see the warehouses and porticos as they were, with even the ships and their rows of oars as they sweep in to the great hexagonal basin, capturing the bustle of Trajan's new port. In fact, now when you fly into Rome at Fiumicino, you can see the basin still there. It's a marsh now, pretty much, but it's still in evidence and a testament to the scale of Trajan's great new project. Finally, we have the most famous of all buildings in Roman coins, the Colosseum sestertius, issued, we believe, around the year 80, when Titus completed the great new building. As many of you know, it was begun by Vespasian, his father, and only completed by Domitian, Titus's brother and successor. But here we see it as it appeared at the Great Inaugural Games in 80, a massive, arcaded building with a surprising number of details visible on this coin. Now, the Colosseum as we see it today is a gaunt ruin, a testimony to centuries of pillaging in the Middle Ages. But here we see it as it was, of course stylized, though, to fit the compass of a coin. So you'll see on the outside, there in the arcades, are tiny statues, originally, of course, in glittering bronze. And if you look very closely, you can see over the entrance a quadriga, a 4-horse chariot, with the emperor in all of his glory, striding out, of course, to conquer Rome's enemies. Inside, you see the tiers of seating, which, of course, reflected Rome's many and very rigidly stratified hierarchies, with the senators in the bottom, equestrians above, and the hoi polloi and their various divisions above. In fact, you can see the very highest rank of seating. There's an arcade, a row of columns at the very top, and that's where women and slaves sat on rickety wooden benches, peering down over the heads of their social betters at the arena below. So we see here Rome's greatest monument as it was when it was first opened. And even though this coin is very small, and many things are compressed, and it's a bit worn, of course, too, it conveys, I think, the majesty of the Colosseum as it was. So, if you enjoyed this content, there's much more on my various channels about the Colosseum itself on Told in Stone, and on Ostia, the Port of Rome, on my new travel channel. So enjoy that after this word from Aaron Berk.
So ancient coins like this, there's nothing like holding in your hand. I mean, this is history in your hands, 2.0 to the max, and of one of the 7 wonders of the world being the Colosseum. that most people, when they go to Italy, this is something that they have to see. But this is the coin in its heyday. And so to be able to hold this coin and the history that was involved is astonishing. And it makes my job excellent and not really a job. It's more of a passion. And collecting is a wonderful way to get in touch with our history, and as well as studying beautiful forms of artwork. I've been doing this for 30 years, and my father started my business in 1964, and I continued on with the business. We do a podcast on ancient coins that you can find on YouTube. It's called the Ancient Coin Podcast with Aaron Berk, and we've been instructing people on how to collect ancient coins and not to fall into some of the pitfalls that can be involved with collecting ancient coins. If you'd like to know more, you can visit our website or feel free to email me with the tags below. Thank you.
I'd like to thank Aaron and everyone else at Harlan J. Berk Coins for their help in the making of this video. On Scenic Routes to the Past, one of my other YouTube channels, you can watch videos exploring many Roman sites, including Ostia, whose harbor was so impressively displayed on the coins we saw today. Thanks for watching.